So today we've got Dr. David Newman, who is a farmer in Missouri who's raising Berkshire pigs for us. And uh, in my opinion, I haven't found anyone that does Berkshires better. He is the best at producing this breed. We've bought Berkshire, some others that um, they're good, but they weren't quite at the same level as what David does for us. And it's important when on the product that we make, that the first layer that we're using, which is buying the best pork we can buy to make we hope the perfect ham, is critical in producing the Surryano, especially. I know Patrick and um, others were talking about how they're handled and the fact that they're in an environment that, happy pigs make better pork. It kind of raised an eyebrow with me that was actually
Thanks.
accurate.
Yeah.
But we found out, and I've learned since, and compared fresh pork raised in an environment that is not um, stress free, so to speak, not just how they're raised, but at the time of harvest, that they're handled properly,
Right.
especially right before harvest. Because if they're not, I've seen what damage that can do to the finished product.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, thank you, Sam, everybody, for having me on. So it's, you know, there's a lot of layers to this story, but essentially, why is Berkshire the best, and why do we believe that ours are the best? And I do believe we have the best eating quality pork in the world. That's what I truly believe in our system. And so I say this every day to people whenever people will call us and say, I had some of your porterhouse chops last night, or I had, this one thing. And they always say, that was the best dang pork chop, I've ever had. And I say, well, that's all we do to make a living for our family. That's it. I mean, we raise pigs, so you better be good if you only do one thing, right? If you're only curing hams, for example, right, and you're making finished products, like it needs to be consistently good. That is the piece that keeps the bills getting paid, right? And it's also something that we do out of passion. So we chase, and what we do in providing you, for example, with raw product, we are extremely passionate about chasing the meat quality game. It's pretty straightforward. So we're looking for things like juiciness, tenderness, flavor. My background, Sam, as you know, is meat science, muscle biology. That's what I do. So I'm basically just an overeducated butcher. That's my Ph.D. is meat science, muscle biology. So, or as my niece says, uh, Uncle David, you're not a real doctor. I'm the wrong kind of real doctor, right? I only deal with stuff once it's dead, so that's a problem for some people. So what I do is study, right, the the creation of muscle, the creation. I mean, how do muscle fibers work? How do muscle bundles work? How do we take a living animal and through the process at the plant turn it into an edible product? And how do you retain moisture, and how do you retain juiciness, and how do you create flavor, which is through fat, as we all know. So in that, quest, let's call it a quest, that for the ultimate meat quality experience, we didn't land on the Berkshire because we thought they were pretty, right? We landed on the Berk because the data is very clear that Berkshire hogs have superior meat quality over any other breed in the world. And that literally dates back, hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of years, into where Berkshire's originated was in England. I mean, as a matter of fact, the British royal family kept a herd of Berkshire hogs until the 1800s. I mean, they've been known for superior quality forever. And many of our genetics here, some of our lines, we do something called internal multiplication. So not all Berks are made the same. There are many people who raise Berk hogs who have a totally different eating experience than ours. And there's a variety of reasons, because through genetics, people try to I use the word manipulate. They try to manipulate certain genetic lines to accomplish things like getting pigs to grow faster, getting sows to have more pigs, trying to make them leaner because they're trying to compete in more of a commodity structure where, in the commodity pig business, you take a huge discount for fat pigs. So when you're trying to chase both games, it never works. You can't be all things for all people. But a Burke is this almost perfect blend to me where their marbling is superior. Their meat color is superior, that really dark red. And dark red is an indicator of high water content. It's high moisture. So it does play a role in it. And then we have this really nice pearly white fat, also something that Berkshires are known for. That's why even though Berkshire has British origins, if you Google Berkshire hogs, you'll see very quickly that the Japanese are obsessed with Berkshire pork. They call it kurabuta, which just in Japanese means black pig, but they're obsessed with kurabuta pork. And the reason why is because they turn all their meat into like shabu shabu, if you're familiar. It's a really super thin sliced meat. Much like they have Wagyu beef, they'll take Berkshire pork and they'll make it in these really thin slices. And so it's popular around the world for its quality. The other thing is that in the United States, we actually have these meat quality contests between breeds. It's a real thing. It's called the National Barrow Show. And for over 65 years, everybody brings in breeds: Duroc, Berkshire, Chester White, Poland's, Spots, Yorkshires, all the breeds, Berkshires included. And for over 65 years, there's a growth competition. So they feed them all in the same location, the same diet. They do a controlled test. And for over 65 years, the Berkshire breed has won the meat quality contest portion of that for over 65 years.
Wow.
And it is consistently always lost in the gain category because to make a great quality product takes a long time, longer than what the commodity business wants. I'm sure you can appreciate that being in the ham curing business, right? I mean, quality product takes time. So with our Berks, not all Berks being alike, a lot of our Berkshire pigs have British origins. Matter of fact, we have one line of pigs that has origins to a very famous Berkshire boar that has been dead now for 40 years. Well, more than that now, almost 50 years. He was actually sourced out of central England. And he was a superior boar that had lines that went back over 100 years. And we've been able to maintain that pedigree on our farm. And so it's more of if you've ever seen a real true Berkshire, you know that their faces are very short, almost like a shoveled nose, right? Because that's what pigs did. That's why they turned them loose in the peanut fields out where you're from, right?
Right.
I mean, in Virginia, because that shoveled nose, these pigs go out. In England, they were looking for truffles. In Virginia, they're trying to clean up peanut fields, right? So I mean, the real true Berks have this more rounded shape to their back and more of a shoveled look to their nose. It's how I can instantly look at a group of pigs and know whether or not they are what I call the commodity Berk or the heritage Berk. And so we've selected these genetic lines that make our Berkshires unique in the U.S., and then we raise them outside. And that piece you mentioned about Patrick saying happy pigs, the thing about happy pigs is that any animal allowed to exercise, there actually is a scientific component to this. So there's such a thing as exercise physiology, right? For a human, if you exercise long enough, exercise becomes easier, right? Your muscles become trained, and you learn to be able to handle the stress of the exercise. And so if these pigs are working out outside all day long, unlike a commodity pig that's only walked back and forth in a pen, if these pigs have been outside and actually walked up and down and, they've had a little bit of that stress, when they are exposed to a trailer on the last day of their life, right? And they need to walk up a ramp and they need to walk into a pen and they need to do a lot of movement. Any pig that has never moved like that can experience some really hard stress physiology. They start releasing different hormones like cortisol. You've heard they talk about that in humans, right? So there's all these hormones that get released, the fight or flight syndrome, And then if you take them and you don't rest them properly at the plant right before you have that, slaughter process take place, you can actually end up getting something called pale, soft, and exudative pork. I'm sure you've seen it.
Yeah.
So you can take the perfect pig, the perfect genetics with a really cool 1,000-year-old story, and you can raise them in a happy environment. And then 1 minute prior to slaughter, you can screw all of those years of work up. And what happens is that you elevate those stress hormones, and you get the creation of lactic acid in the muscle, because muscle doesn't stop creating lactic acid when the pig is dead. Actually, the body temperature goes up in the carcass for about the first 45 minutes after slaughter, because the muscles are still quivering, they're still working and exercising. And so you can really botch the whole system. So, I mean, it takes a lot of people a lot of time to balance all of this together to make a quality product.
And I've seen the negative effects of what you're talking about, that stress hormone. In with a city ham, you pump it, you maybe not notice it as much, but in a dry cured piece of meat, literally in the center of that ham, when you cure it and cut into it, after you've done all the things you should do, including aging it for 18 months, it's like peanut butter in the middle of it. It's like soft, mushy, spreadable muck.
Yeah.
I mean, it totally ruins the ham. From one of the other packers that we had bought from years ago, they ran into a whole spell of that. And part of it was because it was how they handled the pig right before slaughter.
Yeah.
And if it weren't for somebody that I knew that worked at the plant that told me what's new and different, is how we discovered what was happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so whenever I was in graduate school, that's actually what I did. I studied pre-slaughter stress and transportation and the impact that it had on meat quality in hogs. So I actually lived in the Netherlands for a while. I moved to Holland and I did research for a European pork company there. And, truthfully, it was just a way to get to travel Europe on someone else's dime at the time. And so I didn't have kids and I wasn't married, and and they needed some big, meat quality ogre who could come help them out. And so I told them I was their man, and we had a lot of fun. But we looked at these things, the impact of hauling a pig 3 hours versus 6 hours, and different time periods. And then, we would set up a design. It was a 2 by 2 by 2 by 4 factorial design. So take that so top or bottom deck, long or short transport, long or short lairage time, which is just waiting, right? And then the 4 factorial was winter, spring, summer, fall, because season has a big impact on transportation, right? I mean, we're for the next 90 days, we're in the worst 90 days of the year for meat quality impact right now. I mean, it's it was 98 degrees here yesterday with 90% humidity. You couldn't even go outside. And so when you're hauling hogs, for example, we hauled hogs yesterday up to Paradise, right, for the Phantasmas who know exactly what to do with them. We rest everything a minimum of 3 hours. And we took a big load up there yesterday morning, and we left at 12:30 a.m.
To get
Yeah.
While it was in the upper 70s, probably.
Yeah, while it was in the 70s. I mean, so someone had to drive all night, and no one wants to do that. But whenever again, we make a living on the integrity of our product. So, we want what's best for the welfare of the animal, and we want what's best for the quality of the end product. And it's just it's a tough world out there. So you can't be like this. It can't be good, bad, good, bad. If you want to be consistently good, you got to go beyond the normal parameters.
What about the stunning process? You have an opinion on that? Gas versus electric versus a stun gun?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I have an opinion on everything. So, I mean, actually, no, I don't. But I have a lot of opinions on meat science stuff, things that I can relate to. So we've also done work on stunning methods. I've done work on CO2 gas, saturation levels, design of plant, design of lairage, and electrical stun. I mean, so what I would say to that is we still electrical stun what we have. there is there a difference between CO2 stun and electric? Yes, there is. It's a very slight difference, but yes, there is. There's a couple of problems with that though. So first off, a CO2 system costs millions and millions and millions of dollars. I mean, average cost to put CO2 in a small plant is 3 to 6 million.
Oh,
Average
that's
cost to put
yeah.
CO2 in a large plant, 6 to 12 million.
Mm,
So, I mean, you have to build an underground Ferris wheel, I
yeah.
mean, literally and then you have the OSHA requirements of saturating a pit with CO2 gas. I mean, it's dangerous, and that's a problem.
Well,
So,
one of the other things too, excuse me, one of the other things about CO2 that I don't like is some of the plants have a tendency to not stun them, but actually kill them with it.
yeah,
And then when they go to stick the hog, the heart's not beating. They don't get all the blood out of the carcass, which
right.
for dry cured meats is a major
Huh,
no-no. You want
yeah,
all that pumped out of there as much as you
especially
can.
when you're in the ham business, right? I
Yeah,
mean, where's the
right,
last place it's going to drain from?
right,
That
right. And
center,
it
center of the
causes
ham.
a higher spoilage rate,
Yeah,
much
of
higher
course.
spoilage rate.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, and so I mean, let me say this. I mean, do I think there's enough of a difference to justify a switch? No, no, I do not. Um, both processes work very well when executed properly. Maybe executed isn't the best word for
No, that's a perfect word
that.
actually.
Both of them when done properly. So, if it's done right, I mean, so when you do the electric stun in the correct method, it's very humane, it's very fast, and you get to your stick faster.
Hmm.
You can
Hmm.
shackle and stick really,
Hmm.
really quick.
Hmm.
So, you know, from a humane standpoint, both work fine. A lot
Hmm.
of people will do a double stun, they'll do a head to heart.
Hmm.
So they'll do a head stun and then a heart
Yep.
stun,
Yep.
right? But like you said, that's something you got to explain to people when you're talking about the harvest process because they say some people will say euthanizing an animal. Well, a veterinarian euthanizes an animal, not a meat scientist. We stun an animal. What we want is 100% loss of consciousness, just the same as if someone was going into a surgery, right? You need to be under like a surgical plane. And so but the what actually takes the and what actually ends the life of the animal is that we exsanguinate them. We get rid of all the blood, right? Which is the number one pet peeve of a meat scientist, Sam. If you didn't know that, there is no blood in meat, right?
Right. Right.
People say, how do you want your steak? And they say, not bloody. And I say, well, that's good. You can eat it raw then. There is no blood. We got rid of that right off the bat because otherwise you described that really very detailed. I don't ever want to eat a piece of ham that has the texture of peanut butter on
Right.
it,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
well, it would be if we left blood in meat, it would be like the world's worst piece of meat that was like a jelly donut, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because you would have coagulated blood in the middle of it.
Hmm.
So yeah. So I don't think either method is acceptable from a stunning standpoint.
Hmm.
I still prefer electric over CO2 though.
Hmm. I had no idea it was that expensive, but I've seen operations in larger plants and how they work, and it's still they it's a fine line between
Yeah.
getting it right and doing it absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
But
Let me tell
I
you
tell you
this.
that I know you guys spend a lot of time though on paying attention to the transportation and getting the harvest
Yeah.
so that the animal is I guess for lack of a better term the last day is as comfortable as possible.
Yeah. Well, like in our trailers, I mean, so for example, we build our trailers a custom built trailer that has internal ramps that are set to an exact angle degree based on research of what angle a pig is the most comfortable walking up. I mean, so we go to I think we go the extra mile. I mean, we have sprinkler systems on board, ventilation systems on board. I mean, they're riding in a, Cadillac. It may not be
An RV.
yeah, they may not be riding to their favorite destination, but they're riding in comfort. You got to make sure that they're good. And let me say this last thing about stunning, because if you look when new plants are being built, I mean, all small and medium-sized processors today put in electric stun because CO2 is just too much of a cost. All big major plants put in CO2. But the honest reason that they put in CO2 is not a meat quality reason. It's a labor. No one can find good help, period. I don't care what field you're in, right? I mean, meat processing, manufacturing, it doesn't matter. And CO2 does not require a human element, right? They can literally build the whole process into robotics that moves the pigs onto these gondolas, takes them in the pit, and brings them out. You only need somebody at the shackle. Electric stun requires human, one person has to stand there 8,000 times a shift.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you start getting human fatigue and things like that, which they have a great system for balancing that out on the commodity side, but it's more about it's the human element, not the animal element.
Also, I appreciate what Paradise, the slaughterhouse, does to keep the temperatures correct from the time of slaughter all the way to the time it gets to us, and it can get chilling it correctly is absolutely key. Again, you can do everything right. If they don't do that part right too, then it affects the quality and the flavor profile of the product. And then transportation to Virginia. Patrick and I go around and around on that sometimes. They can, if they ship it to us frozen or right on the edge or frozen, it's just too cold. For us, the right temp is around 36, which to some people's mind, I don't know why truckers just struggle with getting that right, but they do.
Yeah. I mean, all they have to do is go back to their Thermo King and go.
Yeah. But they're so worried that it's going to get there too warm. And if it's too warm, we refuse it. If it's too cold, we refuse it. It's just because it ruins the meat at that stage.
Yep.
Anyway, Patrick's a joy to work with, and he tries to get it fixed sometimes.
Yeah. I love Patrick. I mean, we all know Patrick, right? So when he watches this, Patrick, I love you. I really do, like a brother. Like a dysfunctional family, we all exist. But there we go. But you know what? I mean, that's what I love. Someone was asking me the other day, because right now, a coronavirus, this whole, the whole world has been turned upside down, as we all know, right? But the livestock business has been in complete turmoil. I mean, the pig business is, it's pretty much about as bad as it's ever been, for producers. And so, I mean, it is a really tough market out here right now. I mean, everybody in the pork business is losing money. I mean, and I'm talking on the live side, not on the meat side. On the live side is tough. And so, someone asked me about this, whatever we qualify ourselves, niche or alternative. I don't really like the word niche, because I tell people I'm a pig farmer. I really need a classification, right? I mean, it's just, this is the way we do it. But I say, they asked me, like, if you could describe your business, in one word, what would you describe? And I said, that's easy. It's relationships. It's not contracts. It's not science. It's relationships. I mean, Patrick and I and you, right? I mean, this is a really cool story. I mean, and it's got some ups, and it's got some downs, and it's got some crazy, I mean, just, the stuff you guys have gone through with the plant, and the things we've gone through on our side. And I mean, it's like if we wrote a book, no one would buy it, and it would be I mean, they probably wouldn't even read it. But I almost feel like it should be in a book someday, because this story of relationships between what we all do. I mean, the Surryano ham, I mean, it's crazy. I literally was just explaining that to somebody this morning, talking to them about your cured hams. It was an Amish guy who was asking, like, what do they even do with the ham, And I said, well, you're not going to believe this, but there's this process that you go through, and it's over a year, and you cure it. And he's like, I don't get it. And I'm like, well, you cure country cured hams? Oh yeah, I got 3 in the attic. I'm like, okay, well, it's like that, just different and much safer. Yours might kill me, and theirs won't kill me. So I'm good.
Yeah, it was. So one of the trips out to the Missouri was to the Amish group of folks. So we said, I don't know, it's maybe 100, I guess, were there. That was an interesting. We had breakfast and lunch with them, and we talked about curing, and
Yeah.
that was an interesting day. It's a interesting lifestyle, no doubt about it. Watching
No
them
doubt.
and watching them plow with plow horses, and I mean, we all pulled up and we're watching this guy plow this field, right? With 2 plow horses and this massive plow. And he saw us there and went right by us and kept right on plowing, figuring that he was going to stop and chat because we came to visit him, right?
Yeah.
No, he said, no way am I stopping these horses once they're going. So we're going to finish the field. So he finished the entire field before he came over to talk to us because the horses were in the mood to plow that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to know where we get the term horsepower?
Right.
That's
right.
it. Yeah. We have about 12 Amish families that raise pigs that have our genetics. So they have our sows, our boars, our feeding protocol, and they're fascinating people. And I have many friends in the Amish community. And I was there 2 weeks ago. I was up looking at a group of pigs, and there was this, probably I would say 8-year-old boy, and he was mowing hay with a team of draft horses, and and my son, I have a 7-year-old, so my 7-year-old's with me, and and he's watching all this, and I'm thinking, your mom's nervous about you riding a 4-wheeler. This kid's out of here on the death contraption, with 2 horses. He can work like a grown man, he's out there but it's their way of life. I respect it. It's cool. And they believe a lot of the same things we believe about, take care of what takes care of you. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. And that's why I like working with the Amish, because they say, you tell me how to do it and we're going to do it that way. If you say it makes a difference, well, that's why we're going to do it like that. And it's not like the rest of the system that just says, how much can we do and how fast can we get it through the system and when do we get paid?
Right.
It doesn't work like that.
Well, we certainly appreciate all that you do, because it does. If we don't start off with the best pork, we know that we're not going to end up with the best flavored ham. And we certainly appreciate all the effort that you guys go through, especially when it's a 365-day a year operation. You're dealing with weather and feed costs and things like that. We appreciate it. And
thank you.
The extra efforts you go through to make it work. It's impressive too that you're a Ph.D. pig farmer too. I think that's
well, again, we only do one thing, so we try to do it really good. But if we didn't have the relationship we have with you and the Phantasmas at Paradise and Patrick and Emily and the team at Heritage, I mean, we do have a great story to tell, and we're all very passionate about what we do. And so I think it's cool, and I think it's great, and I look forward to keeping all this going with all of us together.
Good. Keith, you have any questions?
No, I just want to say, dude, thanks very much for joining. And you know me, I love to talk about ham and pork in general, and you just gave me way too much ammo to take out there on the street. So, yeah.
Hey, man, anytime. I love doing this stuff.
Well, the running joke is they call me the ham evangelist, and you just gave me at least 3 new gospels to work off of, brother. So I appreciate it.
Hey, man, you know what? We've got a story to tell. And if we don't tell our story, someone will tell it for us, and they'll tell it the wrong way.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You guys taking the time to do the show too.
And we hope to get Patrick and you and us on at the same time. We're probably going to have to allot more than 30 minutes, but we'll just let it ramble on wherever it goes on one of those.
Oh man, you never ever know where the conversation is going. So,
that's why we don't do live.
Yeah. And I see Sammy shaking his head and laughing on the screen below. So yeah.
As long as we don't have any FCC restrictions, this is more like watching the those Howard Stern clips. That's what I feel it'll be more.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a great weekend, and again, appreciate you guys reaching out and taking the time.
Thanks. Well, appreciate everything you guys do. We'll see you soon, hopefully.
All right. Take care, David.
All
Great
right.
job, man.
Count on that. See you.
Thanks, David. Appreciate it.
Thanks. You bet.